Hello, Howlers. Ben here. Quick message before we get started for our YouTube viewers. So we tried a new camera out this week and it did not work correctly and we lost a bunch of our video footage. Yeah, not great. So only about the last 15 minutes has working video. The rest is just a screenshot of us. So it's like we're there on your screen, but we're not really. All the audio is in there. We'll be back in video form next week, but we appreciate you. On to the episode.
All right, Howlers, let's get howling. But first, a couple quick warnings. First warning, this podcast contains adult content.
Don't be a pixie.
Second warning, this podcast contains spoilers for the entire Red Rising saga, including Lightbringer.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Etsy, email HowlerPod@gmail.com, visit us at HowlerPod.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see Ben raising the roof like an old man. And rate and review, 5 stars only. If you don't give us 5 stars only, then we will make you spoon out your own eye.
And now, HowlerPod.
Ow!
Chains may be made by others, but we tend them.
Hello, Howlers. Welcome to HowlerPod, your podcast for all things Red Rising, where every episode we dive deep to break down, celebrate, and discuss all aspects of the fantastic Red Rising saga by Howler number 1, Pierce Brown.
Ow, ow!
I am your host, Ben Reinert. I am joined today, as always, by the amazing Erin Ayers.
Hello, Howlers.
Erin, what are we doing today?
We are rereading Part 3, Tempest of Lightbringer, chapters 37 to 42.
Exciting stuff. Part 3. We're already into Part 3.
How many parts are there?
4.
Wow.
This is a long one, though. It's a longer Part 3.
It's going too fast.
It's a good chunk.
When it still lasts forever until book 7.
Let's load up this star shell and shoot straight into our chapter summaries.
Hopefully we don't shit all suits. Chapter 37, Darrow Cacophony. The Archimedes is approaching an asteroid in the vastness of the belt where Darrow hopes to find Quicksilver and a fleet to take back to Mars. As we near the asteroid, we learn that Cassius is perturbed by how messy Darrow and Severo are. Apparently, Severo doesn't flush.
Wow.
Pretty gross, Severo.
Bad form.
That makes me like Severo a little less. Because I don't...
He's always been dirty nasty.
Unless you're doing mellow yellow for the environment. You know what I mean?
Maybe there's something with the ships and like being in space.
Who knows?
You don't want to fill that thing up.
They have a refiltration system. We also learn that Darrow has been working on himself on the journey to the belt. He's working his body with Cassius. I'd like to...
Working his body with Cassius.
Join in. He's working his brain by studying the data that Virginia sent, like learning of his enemies' successes and their movements. And then he's working on his heart by reading the path and also by writing to Pax. As they approach, they grow nervous that this trip was for nothing. Darrow thinks on the path, then stilling his mind. So now we're seeing him using the path in like a meditative way. Then a crater starts to open up on the asteroid. It's a hidden hangar with ships pouring out, and they're like AI ships. Mateo appears over the comms projector in the Archimedes and welcomes them in. Darrow then goes to tell Severo, but Severo's listening to heavy metal music and sharpening his knives and not particularly interested in participating. He's been naming his knives after his enemies, and the latest cleaver is Abomination.
Yikes. Sounds like he's doing great.
Severo is not working on himself. Or maybe he's doing it in a different way by naming very sharp knives.
Chapter 38, Darrow Tabula Rasa. The Archimedes lands in a hangar of the asteroid, and Darrow departs the ship alone. He is met by Mateo. As soon as Darrow sees him, his anger at his old teacher melts, and they hug. Mateo sees Darrow really sees him like in Avatar without the hair fucking
I
part.
see you.
Yeah, I see you.
Who knows? They could have done the hair fucking.
They could have hair fucked. And then Mateo tells Darrow how sorry he is for all the losses that Darrow has suffered. Just as he tells Darrow that he grieves for Severo, the Goblin exits the ship and demands to see Quicksilver. He's in a hurry. He's got to get back to Mars. They meet with Quick in his ridiculously high-tech, pretentious office. They do a little bit of catching up before getting to the moment of truth. Will Quick re-enter the war and help them with all of the resources he's been hoarding? Drumroll, please. No. Quick's answer is no. He has lost faith in the people. They do not have the will to win. After some more back and forth, Quick reveals what this asteroid really is. It's a life raft. Inside is a whole world with trees and weather and its own sun and sigilless Homo sapiens.
That's us.
That's us. We're there. He's not only done with war, but he's done with everything. My man is leaving the solar system altogether. He's starting anew, blank slate. Severo is big time mad at Quicksilver for wasting their time. Darrow also mad, but he's calling to mind the lessons of the path
again
and asks Quick to show him, his new world that he's built.
Darrow's like got Romulus vibes now.
Yeah, I love it.
Chapter 39, Darrow Under the Golden Gaze. Quick and Darrow walk through the garden together. The automaton teachers have led the children away after the sun dimmed, so they're alone in the garden. Darrow asks why they waited for them to approach and board. It took, 38 days was what Severo said? And Quick explains that they were waiting for their window, that the Shadow Armada is still too near, but almost far enough away for them to leave. Mm-hmm. Darrow realizes that the asteroid had to have been started when they were still winning. Quick says that this was always his dream, even before Fitchner came along. He then explains why he wears the ring with the gold eye. It's pretty dark. He used to have a partner and 4 children who were all brutally murdered after being tricked in a business deal by a gold. Quick then took his time and tore the gold's whole family and business apart until all that was left was the gold. Quick told him he could have his life if he spooned out his own eye, and that's the eye in the ring. Quick then put him in a life pod and shot him into deep space, kept alive but not able to move or to die. That was 36 years ago, which is how old I am. And that's terrifying. And when they ship out, when Quick and Mateo and the children of the corn leave, they will pass the life pod on the way to deep space. That's why Quick built the asteroid, so that these Homo sapien children would never know that golden gaze. Darrow tells Quick that he should destroy the life pod as they pass without engaging with the gold. He says that if he ends his pain, he'll end his own. End his pain, end your own. Darrow takes the ring and tells Quick that Darrow will take it from here. Quick says he can't give him ships, but he can give them repairs, weapons, armor, and Lyria.
Some power-ups,
Truffle
baby.
Pig. Then Darrow goes to the main telescopic array and reviews the recent events of the galaxy. Darrow realizes that Mars has not been rained on. He sees the enemy fleet left and went to intercept Jupiter, led by the Lightbringer. He sees that Jupiter was attacked by the Obsidians. So then Darrow goes and tells R.A., Cassius, and Severo that there's a new path, but he asks them first if they want to follow him on it. The chaos of the rim opens up a window for them to infiltrate Ilium to accept Athena's invitation, and it also opens up a window for Severo to fly home. R.A. is troubled. Athena's invitation was to Severo, not to Darrow. Not all the daughters can be expected to be as forgiving of Darrow for giving up the sons to Romulus and having them all killed. Mm-hmm. But Severo wants to go home, and Darrow's going to let him use this window for him to get back to his family.
All right. Chapter 40, Lyria, Departure. Lyria looks at the surgery scar left over from removing the parasite. She's been recovering for the last 5 weeks, had to relearn a lot of basic skills due to essentially getting brain surgery. But her personality, her, is still there, and that is what matters. Mateo shows her the removed psyche and Lyria destroys the parasite and it melts away into a sink. He then tells her that Darrow is expecting her in the next room over. The Darrow?
Oh my God.
That's the one.
That'd be like if someone was like, Erin, I don't know.
Chris Hemsworth.
Or like The Witcher, like as The Witcher.
Yeah. The Rock.
I'm blushing. Also you, The Rock.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I would be.
You would freak out.
Freaking out. Yes, that's the one. The Darrow. And he's headed for the rim and her best bud, Volga. Lyria meets the man himself, seeing him as he is recovering from his latest carving session. She sees him in a brand new light now that she has actually seen him, the weight he carries, and she's looked into his eyes. I looked into their eyes. He's a real person. It's from Game of Thrones. He's a real person in a way he was not before. She tells him she wants to go to the rim with him. Darrow says no, it's too dangerous. Lyria tries to convince him, but it is futile. She's been sent back to Mars and is leaving tomorrow. Mateo wakes her the next day and sends her off to her ship, telling her that he appreciates her friendship. Lyria enters the ship and finds another passenger already on board, and it's Severo Barca.
Oh my God.
And he's upset, and he's ready to leave. Lyria, not knowing what to do or say because, the goblin is sitting 3 feet away from her, tries to tell him sorry for what happened to Ulysses. As soon as she says the name, she knows she's fucked up because Severo doesn't know. He freaks out, just wants to know everything she knows, like, immediately. She tells him everything. The crash, the red hand, the tree. He's devastated. He gives her a holocube and tells her to get it to the Sovereign and then leaves the ship. Lyria considers her options and makes the decision to leave the holocube on the ship, headed for Mars, and then sneak her way onto the Archimedes.
Wow.
Sneak, sneak.
Who would you rather meet, Darrow or Severo?
Darrow.
Especially like Severo in this
I don't
state.
like people that smell.
I don't like people who like would choke me out.
Yeah. I just feel like he's a little too dangerous.
Terrifying. Like, can I get your autograph? Okay, chapter 41, Darrow to the stars. Ad Astra. Darrow wakes and is impressed by his new flexibility after Quick's light wave treatments, which I would love to do. Sounds great.
The old joints a little bit.
It's like an Epsom salt bath, but like times 1,000. He heads to Severo's suite to see if he changed his mind, but he's gone, along with the ship that Quick sent him and Lyria to Mars in. He goes to inspect the hull of the ship, and Cassius and Quick join him. Cassius tries to shake Quick's hand, but Quick refuses because he killed Ares. He also says, if you were worth anything, Loon wouldn't be leading a gold armada, would he? Which is like such a burn. It's not very nice.
No.
But also.
Quicksilver's a dickhead.
You don't think it's Cassius's fault that Lysander's leading a gold armada?
No.
Me either. That was a test. Quick shows Darrow new sets of pulse armor that he made for them. Mateo and Are arrive along with a drone carrying Fitchner's Ares helmet called the Twilight Helm, which sounds badass.
Mm-hmm.
Quick gives it to Darrow, and he's like, tell the helmet I am Ares. And Darrow's like, no, not yet. Not unless Athena says I should. Mm-hmm. So Darrow's still not ready to be Ares because we still have Severo. Quick and Mateo say their farewell, and then Severo comes into the hangar loaded up with heavy weaponry. Severo's back. He's had a fresh shave and cut his hair into his Warhawk. That's exciting. Darrow follows him onto the ship, and he's trying to ask him why the change of heart, but Severo says to drop it. They take off and leave the asteroid behind.
Chapter 42, Lyria, Rat and the Machine. Lyria has been hiding out on the Archimedes for 9 days without being discovered. It's very uncomfortable, and she's very hungry. She's making a late-night trip to the kitchen to steal some food when she is caught in a trap by Severo. The whole crew is now alerted to her presence, and everyone is there to see what the commotion is about. Severo is about to send her out the airlock before Darrow stops him. Severo lets her go, but now she has to face Darrow. She's coming on this excursion, whether he likes it or not, and she's going to help her friend Volga. Darrow relents, and they end up making a deal. She can come, but Darrow gets to choose when and how she gets deployed. His priority is not Volga, but if their goals end up coinciding, so be it. She can go help her friend. Lyria agrees with one extra condition. There's an open chance for her to get to Volga, and it doesn't get in the way of Darrow, then he has to let her go. He agrees. Lyria is officially part of the crew now.
Woo!
After taking a shower and talking with Ore about Athena, she gets some new clothes from Cassius. She tells Cassius she knows who he is and lists off his infamous list of titles and dubious deeds. Cassius acknowledges with sadness, but Lyria does not make him feel judged for it and instead celebrates him for being here now.
It's like what he needed.
Yep. They decide to share some whiskey, and Lyria tells Cassius her call sign, Truffle Pig. And just like that, it's the start of a beautiful friendship.
Aw. Little eaglet.
All right, Erin, what's the theme for this week's chapters?
The theme is perspective.
Gaining lots of perspective in these chapters.
We're learning about what everyone's doing finally. Darrow's not in the dark.
Definitely. We're having some shifting perspectives. Darrow's trying to change himself.
He's doing a great job.
Following the path. We've got Severo kind of stuck in his one perspective, looking at the world. And then
it kind of shifts when he finds out his baby died.
But not in a healthy way. We've got Quicksilver laying out his perspective on the world and really unchanging. So it's an interesting set of shifting perspectives throughout these chapters.
If you remember our theme, shifting sands.
Yes.
Perspective's probably a better word. When was that? Dark Age?
I don't know. That was a fun one, though.
Shifting sands. Things are changing.
I really enjoy the themes that we come up with.
That you come up with.
Well, you help sometimes. But the quote that was read off at the top of the episode on the intro.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that one, and it kind of influenced me for this entire theme, so we'll get into that.
Well, why don't we play it again?
Yes, let's hear it from Nick.
Chains may be made by others, but we tend them.
Nice.
I just love that. I don't know. It's like there's so much there.
He says that right before he says end his pain to end your own.
Right.
Like stop living in this cycle of torturing yourself and this gold that ruined your first family.
Right. It's like we've got to be able to let go. And yes, there's sins of the past and they may define you in some type of way, but like you don't have to hold on to them and make them define you for your future. And so there's a lot of characters dealing with that, like Darrow especially. Like he's had all these failures, and our first quote is him talking about the path to the veil and quoting that book. So we'll play that here first.
Forgetting is essential to learning, just as exhaling is essential to breathing. Breathe out, then in. Find the self, then lose it once again. Thus the path goes ever onward.
It's kind of like a mantra.
Yes, very much so.
Breathe in, hold for 4. Breathe out, hold for 4.
I love that forgetting is essential to learning. It is. Like you have to, in all kinds of different ways. Like if you're trying to learn a new skill, if you keep thinking about how you're doing something, like it's way harder to do it. But if you kind of just let your body take over and flow, then you're going to learn it a lot faster and it's going to stick with you.
Yeah.
Same thing with like what we were talking about. Like Darrow's had all these failures. Like he basically like lost the war on Mercury. And
yeah, he lost a lot of people too.
Got millions of people killed, and he's like seeing those ghosts all the time. He's got dead friends everywhere. He's let people down. His best friend hates him,
and his body is beat up and from being stabbed and
he's carrying all those scars and everything. And so it's just like he could let that define him, and he could go into a hole and just be woe is me. But he's
and what does Quick say? He's like defeat either brings suicide or what was the other one? transformation.
Yeah, like philosophy. Like he
Yeah,
either turned
and it's
into a
like
philosopher.
Roke
Yeah.
chose suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Darrow is taking this new path now where he's, letting go of his past failures and trying to focus on moving forward in a way that's going to, achieve his new goals. So I really enjoyed that. And then
we should all read The Path.
I think that plays great into that quote about chains might be made by others, but we tend them. I think that just stuck with me in all these chapters. It stuck with me for the last few days as I continue to think about this and put this outline together. Like, yes, chains can be made by others. Things can be put on us, expectations.
Break the chains.
Exactly. But we take a lot of that information in and we hold it on ourselves, and then it becomes part of our story that we tell ourselves, and we're tending those chains daily. And so, I don't know, just breaking out of that cycle and kind of that, I just love that aspect of it. That really connected for me. So
it also makes these changes in Darrow make him a more relatable and likable character than like Savoy Darrow.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
it's kind of why, like, at this moment, Severo's so hard
to connect with,
and why people were kind of like annoyed with Severo a little bit because everyone has all this loss, but the way they're reacting to it is different.
Yep. So Darrow's got a great quote here about Severo. So great segue, Erin.
Thank you.
Severo does not want to be here. He came along because he had to. He knows the importance of this mission, but it's not made him any better company.
So yeah, let's talk about Severo just being a bad time.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
well, Severo's always kind of been immature and petulant and, I mean, he was more childish than the rest of them in the Institute as well.
Yeah.
More like he's been bullied more and,
yeah,
just had a harder time.
And he's more tribal and more like loyal to those he loves, and like that's all he cares about.
Right.
And so those, like, for me, it doesn't connect when I know some people have criticized this book for like Severo not being himself, or like they don't get the character in this book. And to me, like, this is very much who Severo is and has always been. It's amped up on a level of nasty that like is not fun.
But he's the goblin.
Yeah.
He's nasty.
He's not like this fun jokey character anymore, but like this is a natural progression based on his I feel like personality traits that
and experiences.
Yes, and his experience.
He's had a terrible time.
And so his perspective is just this one singular perspective that cannot be changed. And it's like, this is a waste of fucking time. I don't want to be here.
I want to go home.
I want to go home and take care of my family.
Yeah.
And I'm getting dragged along for all of this. And no matter what they say or do, no matter how much Darrow tries to like bring him into the fold or connect with him, he just won't allow it.
Yeah.
And he's just singular focused.
He's hardened his heart.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to like act like nothing's wrong, because so many things are wrong.
Right. The walls are up and he's not interested in taking them down at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that takes us into like Quicksilver's perspective, who he's, obviously a father of the Rising. One of the fathers of the Rising put a lot of not only money and resources into this, but just, his own personal ambitions and whatnot. And now he's got this kind of like bitter, similar to Severo kind of outlook, where he's just like
the people didn't contribute. Like, we gave our whole lives to the people, and then the mob turned on us and fucked everything up. So like, why should we help them?
Yes. He's got a couple quotes here about the mob that we'll play and the people in general. With this just explains his perspective and why he's not rejoining the war.
Of course I wonder what I could have done differently. Your constant refrain, I know, Darrow. The only difference between you and me is that you blame yourself, and I know who's really to blame. The mob.
The mob.
Nick did a really good job with that one.
I haven't heard Nick's Quicksilver voice.
I like the little inflection on that.
Yeah.
It's kind of how Quick would say that with the nastiness. And then, yes, we have one more quote from Quick as well here.
To be perfectly honest, I no longer believe the people have the will to win this. I no longer believe in the people at all, really.
Wow.
Right there. I mean, he says it all. Like, he's lost faith in the people. Obviously, like, the day of red doves was like, that was the deal breaker for him. It was over at that point.
And for me, I also agree with Severo and Quick.
That we can't trust the people?
No. They're sheep.
Dancer would be so disappointed in you.
Dancer was murdered by Lilith and the mob.
Yeah, so Quick's perspective is locked in here, and it's really colored by his experience. He's got this idea that, you know, he needs to create a new world without this golden gaze like you had talked about in the chapter summaries.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I do like about it is that Darrow is able to like land some punches with him and like able to, you know, he's doing this, like he's not doing it, but at the same time Darrow's able to like hopefully change his heart a little bit, like by talking to him about that gold and like letting go of his pain, and that maybe
I think Darrow like basically forgiving him for doing this, saying like understanding at least, maybe not forgiving.
And it is kind of shitty because like Quick is like basically having them out here so that he can feel better about doing this.
Darrow realizes like, oh, that's why he let me come out this way. But they do get ship repairs and kick-ass pulse armor.
Yeah, so he does get something out of it for sure.
In Lyria.
But I do like that, you know, he's letting go of your pain. Also, I like what he talked about with that he had talked about not wanting to meet the Children of the Corn. Like Quicksilver wasn't ever going to
just the
meet
automatons.
them. But Darrow was saying, you know, maybe you would enjoy being a father to these people, and like giving himself an opportunity for a new life, like not being so scarred and latched onto that old life that he can't create a new one. I enjoyed that a lot too. And then our last quote here comes from Lyria, who has a similar moment to in Iron Gold when she talked to Mustang, or like saw Mustang for the first time, like really like saw her.
Well, then immediately has empathy that she didn't have before.
Connects with her in a way that hadn't previously, and then she like has this major understanding. She has a similar moment with Darrow here, which I liked kind of the way those two moments sang.
For a horrifying second I realized what it must be like to be him, the man cursed to use the weapons of the enemy to liberate people like me. All for what? So people like me can stand with their hands on their hips and scold him? All the anger I've had for him over the years dissolves in the reality of his existence.
What do you think?
Lyria. I think that it's important to like meet people. That's why you can't hate people from afar or just like over the internet or whatever. Like the minute you meet them in person, you immediately see their humanness, and that's what happens here.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. It's just like how this applies to all of us in the real world, where it's like you can have an opinion of someone until you've actually met and talked with them. Yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, they're human like me, and they're also having problems and going through things. And
or just you see like they're not, you know, like with
this
Darrow
image in your mind that you had.
Darrow's a warlord, and then she sees him and immediately is like, look at all of his scars. Like shit. Yeah,
just like the shit imagining the shit that he's been through, and then putting herself in that position and be like, I could never handle that, you know? Yeah. I love that from her, and I don't know. That's why I feel like Illyria is such an important character. And I'm so glad that we have her perspective.
As a not superpower figment.
Yeah. I think she speaks to that too about the parasite in a really great quote where she's like, this was kind of like my fairy tale moment that was going to make me big and strong and be able to be like everybody else. But I think what she's going to discover, and what she discovers in this book and will discover in Red God, is just like she can be that person without all that. She's that powerful already.
She can influence the changing of decisions in history. just by being yourself.
Yep. And then
Little truffle pig.
there were a couple of other moments of perspective shifting that I just wanted to call out that I didn't have exact quotes for, but I liked Mateo and Lyria's last moment where he like really appreciated the friendship that they created over the 5 weeks together. And, you know, remembering he was obviously like angry with the mob, just like Quicksilver was,
Yeah.
but remembering that there's real people in that mob like Lyria, and learning that lesson I thought was
It's like the same lesson as Lyria meeting Darrow.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because Lyria was one of quote unquote the mob.
Right. Yeah.
The lay people.
I thought that was good perspective as well. And then we get this like, you know, horrible list of things that Cassius has done. He's betrayer. He's the Turning Cloak. He killed Ares, let Darrow into the Dragon's Maw to kill the Sovereign.
He's betrayed every side.
Yes. And so like he could be destroyed by that, right? And he carries a lot of guilt and sadness around that. And he could, I mean, obviously he's dealing with it by drinking at times and just like still having
Staying
a tough
up
time
all
with
night.
it. But that's not who he is now. And like he's making decisions to take him away from that and to do the right thing and do what he feels like is honorable and honor his friends and the people that he cares about. And Lyria, in just like a quick moment, is able to like recognize that in him. And she, I don't know, she unlocks something, I feel like, that was really great. I just love how she's like, but you're here now. And that's all
Right.
that matters.
That's
And
all
he's
that
just
matters.
like, and then that just like takes this whole weight off of
Yeah.
Cassius immediately.
And I mean, he hasn't had a stranger like be nice to him.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I know.
you
Everybody's such a dick to him.
like everyone's mean to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this little red person
Yeah.
is just
I just thought that was
cool.
beautiful.
And she likes whiskey.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. So, all right. That was our theme for this week.
Do you know-
Perspective.
Do you know what's up next?
How is Cassius hilarious today?
And we have something.
There is. We have a Cassius moment. My favorite hilarious Cassius moment this week was when he snaps a mock salute and he says, "Yes, Imperator. Happy to, Imperator. Good call, Imperator." And then Darrow leans in and sniffs his breath, and he's obviously drunk.
Been drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
It's like, happy to, Imperator. That was hilarious.
It was good stuff.
Okay, now let's go into our Prime 5 of our favorite insights and observations from this week's chapters. I'll take the first one.
Go.
Okay. This was the first time I read the book. This was the only time I cried. I
Really?
didn't even cry when,
Yeah.
the
I know.
big cry moment. Because I was like flying through it.
Yeah.
Cross was in town already by the time I read the end of the book. So this was Mateo's benediction for the lost friend. So when Darrow comes off the ship and Mateo grabs his face and it says, "I grieve for," and then lists each person. Dude, I was like, so do I.
Oh man. Yeah.
Each one was like, fuck,
Yes.
man. And it kind of was like healing from Dark Age.
It was.
From reading Dark Age.
And we got like that opportunity. Darrow gets an opportunity to actually grieve his friends and like feel that pain and grief with someone else who understands.
Because, Darrow's like a
Constantly
bullet.
moving.
Move,
Yeah.
move. Like, the Marcher was the first time he had to like suffer through.
But even then, it doesn't even
Stillness.
seem like they weren't like really confronting their feelings. They
No.
were still
They were
on the
just
mission at that
surviving.
point. Yeah.
So this is the first time he like breaks down and mourns with someone else that we
Yeah.
know of.
This
It's
moment,
just
it got me
beautiful.
the first time through too. I was
Oh my
definitely-
gosh. I was like, Mateo?
Yeah.
Who brought Mateo into
I was
this
thinking there was
trap?
one other moment with like, there was like some kind of reference to Ragnar that really got me the first time around.
In this book?
Yeah, but I'm not sure where it's at exactly, but I know I cried 3 times. It was that, this, and then obviously on Cassius, but this was really powerful. I mean, I thought it was just a beautiful moment. I was really happy to reread that part.
Me too.
Okay, so next item on the Prime 5 list. Let's talk about Lyria and the Parasite. Is there any conspiracy
Yes.
corner here? I know a lot of people are out there like,
Probably.
parasite's still in her head. It's going
Ben,
to activate at some
You're
point.
in the room, so there's always a conspiracy corner in this room. I think, like, was she even holding the parasite? Was that the real thing? Can you really like melt it with bright light? And it's like she drew a triangle. It's like, I don't know. It seemed kind of symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like liquefied.
Yeah.
What if, I mean, can the parasite even die? We don't know.
I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm highly skeptical of this one. I know there's a lot of people out there that like this idea, not bagging on it at all, but I'm skeptical of this one. I read that section a couple different times, and I just feel like, first of all, like, why are they? I guess they would have to open her head up to repair it if that's what they were going to do. But even then, like, there's a whole paragraph where she talks about, he's like, "Can you feel it?" And
she's like, yes.
She said yes, but in the way that
Like
you
a
can
ghost
feel
limb.
a lost limb.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, that's description.
Well, I'm not saying it's still in her head.
Okay.
I'm saying, was that actually the parasite?
I got you. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people out there conspiracy theorizing about it still being in her head. It's going to activate it at some point. She's going to actually have the parasite.
That'd be cool. Holy Spirit, activate, activate.
You'd be okay with that?
Well, I don't think it's in her head, because if there was a time to be activated, it would be when Volga was about to heart punch her.
I think that's a good idea as well.
Wouldn't she like ninja her way out of that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there's going to be a time where it's going to activate, it's going to be at that moment when you're...
Or like go and like stick her fingers up Fosno's. And,
yeah. Adrenaline's pumping, you're about to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's... I just think like reading the text and subtext, it's there that it's out of her head. To me, like it's clearly out of her head. But...
And then do you think it was melted?
Yeah, I think it's gone.
Great. I just, knowing Quicksilver, I'd be surprised if he was like, yeah, just destroy this priceless piece of technology that could possibly...
He's got no use for it.
I don't know.
Also, like, I feel like maybe we would have gotten some kind of like parting little cute comment from Mateo if it was still in her head, like, I don't know.
A breadcrumb.
Yes, something that would have...
No, I don't think it's in her head.
Yeah.
Because like it should have like tried to save itself or whatever.
Yeah.
Or at least crawled into Volga's head. Like, finally a bigger body.
Okay, let's talk about a next item, which is Quick's revenge. What did you think about that?
That gave me bad feelings. That was pretty gnarly.
It is pretty fucking gnarly.
And it's also gnarly that he's telling Darrow about this. Darrow was in that same horror in the table. So Darrow suffered the way that this gold man is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
except he could kill himself by banging his head. This guy can't even do that.
Yeah.
So this is like even worse than Darrow's.
The description of the way that this gold killed Quick's family,
It's terrible.
also terrible.
And
like, this
then-
whole thing is just ugly,
And then
nasty.
like Quick choosing himself over his partner.
Yeah. Oh, man. That whole thing was just...
So there's a darkness in Quick from that is very understandable.
Yeah.
And, it makes sense why he wanted to kill all the golds.
Right. I mean, yeah, this is a gnarly one. I don't know how to feel about that other than, golly, it's dark. And
Yeah. And Pierce, I don't want him to ever have a reason to torture me. He's got some scary visions. I don't think I could ever come up with that whole story.
I do think holding on to it as long as Quick has is
36 years.
extremely unhealthy. So I do agree with Darrow's advice. He's got to let it go. But
Yeah.
yes, because he's like, it in a way, it is like, by keeping that person alive, he's like keeping the wound open on
Scratching
himself.
at it.
Yes, he's like picking at the scab constantly, no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping that on his mind.
And I mean, physically, he does pick at it with the ring. He
right.
spins the ring over and over.
And that is just, yes, you want to like remember your dead family and that type of thing, but just
That's not a good way to
that's not going to
honor them.
Yeah, exactly. So, Quick's asteroid, Tabula Rasa.
Yes.
Are you flying off into the stars with Quicksilver, or what do you think?
Well, is the goal to find a habitable planet? He's just like going
Didn't really
off.
say what the goal was. It seems like it's just to live on this.
Just fucking leave
Yeah. And they're gonna live on this spaceship I
forever.
thought maybe they'll find another planet, but I don't know.
I don't feel like the ship
Not
is
in his lifetime,
like
obviously.
big enough for like my whole life.
I would agree. This sounds like it sucks.
And how like is there gonna be like inbreeding? Do we have enough
Genome to
yeah.
go around? Yeah,
Like,
I'm
after
sure
how
there
many
is.
years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Darrow describes like how tall it is in meters, but I couldn't really picture how big it was. I mean,
Right.
it's really, really big, but you can still like see to the other end of it. It's not like looking across the ocean and you can't see
I was most interested by it having its own sun.
in the middle.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm not
Doesn't
flying.
it?
That sounds like a real bad time.
Just like your whole life.
On a spaceship. What if you don't like 3 people on that spaceship? Then it's just like
Yeah, there's also not enough.
dealing with them all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't do it.
And he even says like it's basically an experiment. He's like they could all kill each other and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It
like-
could turn into Lord of the Flies in there real quick.
yeah. Children of the Corn.
So what do we think about Quick? We're assuming that he's left the story for good at this point in the
Yeah.
conversation that we're having now. What's his legacy as a character in this story?
Well, he started and funded the Rising. I mean,
Right.
Darrow is his legacy.
Yeah. That's true.
So even though he
I feel like a lot like
pisses off,
I'm left cold by him. I've always been left cold by Quicksilver, you know.
well, he funded the whole Rising, but Fitchner was like the heart of it,
Yeah.
you know. I think Silvers as like in general are like shrewd business people and aren't necessarily meant to be, you know, passion and Quick kind of emulates that sect that he's brought up in. And
Mhm.
then he also has this horrible backstory that kind of drives him as just revenge driven.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was interesting that he says that he looked at Darrow as a son, but we don't really ever get Darrow thinking of him as a father.
He sees Dancer as a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that to me is like that explains a lot of Quicksilver right there.
And Quicksilver also isn't fatherly.
Yeah.
Like Darrow's kind of encouraging him, like maybe you would enjoy being a father
Yeah.
instead of a god. Like he's calling himself a god, and Darrow's like maybe try being a father,
Yeah.
being more human.
Interesting character, obviously very important to the overall like story and thrust of the thing, but like to me, like I'm glad he's moving on, and this wasn't the guy that I wanted to like save the day, you know, this
Just
character.
Swoop in with robots.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I mean, it would be good for winning the war, but
I'm all about winning.
yeah, for me, like that's not a very satisfying story. So, all right, let's talk about our next item.
Okay. It's Lyria in her descriptions of Darrow, Severo, Cassius, and Are.
I thought this was great. Like getting her, we already talked kind of about
We
her.
get a first impression
Yes,
of everybody.
I really enjoyed, we already talked about Darrow one, just like how that changed her perspective. Her Severo one just
Yeah.
paints him as very scary.
So Darrow also describes him like when he's doing his knives, he's like hunched,
Yeah.
shirtless, covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
I pictured like Justin Bieber or like Machine Gun Kelly, like the way they're all tatted up
Yeah.
and skinny and like hunched. I don't know. But smellier.
Vials of blood around their neck and stuff like that. Yeah.
Ears.
Yeah. And then I love how she described Cassius as just like full on thirst trap, she's just
She
like,
said, the most handsome man to ever wink at
she's
me.
like, that is a man.
Hubba is what she says. And then she basically says the same thing about Ari.
Ore, yeah.
She's like, holy shit, these people are good looking. Think about how like bad you'd feel about yourself about meeting all these people.
She has a great
Shit.
description of Ore. About Ore, she says, a woman so beautiful that she must be made of shadow and starlight. I blink up at her, forgetting the giants towering over me. No, shadow and fog. That's what she is.
Ooh, smoky.
Not only is that like a good description of her looks, but also like a good description of just her overall character and vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was great. I just like, I love those perspectives.
And then Cassia, she's like, what a man.
Yes.
Yeah. So Darrow, she's more like worshiping him.
Yeah.
Severo's more like,
Well, she's like seeing a
terrifying.
god in person,
Yeah.
like realizing he's actually a human.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Severo's scary.
and then the other
she's
two are
like,
just beautiful.
wow.
Hubba.
And then the last item on the Prime 5 list is just a quick one.
Well, this is what I thought you were going to put for how was Cassius hilarious today.
Oh, yeah. The Leviathan
It
part.
could be an honorary.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some Leviathan mentions. There's already been a few throughout the book, and then we get a couple like right in a row in one of the chapters here today. They're starting to come hot and heavy at this point because guess what? We're going to see a Leviathan later. So Pierce is priming us for that.
I didn't think about the future. I was thinking about how this was a callback to when they're flying to, where do the Obsidians live? On Mars.
The
North Pole of Mars.
The South Pole, right? The Spires.
The Spires.
Yeah.
Valkyrie Spires. I was like, where are they going? To the cold part. And they crash, and then there's like sea beasts.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this as like a callback.
Right.
I guess Cassius wasn't necessarily in the ship that crashed, but he was chasing them.
Right. Yeah, I guess I didn't really see it that way, but I get what you're talking about.
But I didn't even think about the future. But I think that's why he was making that joke about if we're with Darrow, he's probably going to crash into the sea with a Leviathan.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he also mentions a couple other sea beasts along with the...
Really?
He mentions the Skyla
The
along
fuck is
with
a Skyla?
the Leviathan. And the Skyla actually has a connection to another sea beast that was mentioned back a few episodes ago. His ship is called the Charybdis.
Okay.
And these are both connections to the Odyssey.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're like sea monsters that are on both sides of a strait, and you can't sail too close to either one or else you die.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Pierce
more Odyssey stuff.
loves the Odyssey. I should read it.
I think I did read it in high school. I don't remember a single bit of it.
I didn't go
I'm
to
sure
a
I
great
cliff noted
school.
it and didn't actually
Right.
read it. All right. So now that we've finished our Prime 5, it's time to name our Primus of the Week, where we choose the one character who conquered our Proctor's plot and rose above the rest. Our Primus of the Week is...
Lyria, Truffle Pig.
Why is she the Primus?
Because she stayed hidden for 9 days and she peed on Severo without dying.
Yes. If you pee on someone, you win Primus.
That has always been our rule. If you remember back, did Karnas pee on
Karnas was a Primus
Darrow?
because
That
of
was
this.
the first pee?
Yeah.
No. Who peed on someone in the Institute?
Titus, probably.
Okay.
Titus was doing some peeing.
And then who peed on Diomedes' cloak?
Ajax.
This is a quiz.
Yeah.
So yes, if you pee on someone, you win Primus. It's the rule. We didn't make it up.
Yes.
This is the rule.
This is history at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
job,
But I
Lyria.
think she had a good week overall. Had
And
the parasite
we
removed
haven't had anyone pee on anyone
in a while.
and at least not in Dark Age. Or was
Didn't that happen in Dark Age
No.
with Ajax? Yeah.
if I can
It
remember.
would have. Yes, it's been
Once
a
a
whole
book.
book. Yeah.
No one's peeing in Iron Gold.
I don't think so. She had the parasite removed. Like Karen said, she snuck onto Archimedes. survived her 9 days without 3 of the best killers in the solar system noticing her. Also, she inadvertently got Severo to join the mission, which ends up saving the day. Yes.
Yes.
That needed to happen. So
Good job. Do.
great job, Lyria. All right, let's move on to the Howler mailbag. We've got Cassie P and some tidbits.
Let's do it.
Happy New Year, Howlers! 3 quick tidbits this week in Let's Talk Mythology Part 3 of 4. So, in these chapters, I really love that Matteo and Darrow got to hold their own little version of their rising dirge, remembering the fallen, letting their light shine one more time, there at the edge of darkness. I also love that all of Matteo's remarks serve to affirm Darrow, building him up in spirit while Cassius builds him up in body after all that's happened to him, preparing Darrow for what's to come. And then later on, Quick's all-striking revelation of a resurrected species in a curated world brought to mind the words,
"Welcome to Jurassic Park."
Don't know if anyone else heard that in their minds. My third tidbit I'm calling rectification of names, which Confucius says is also not a but thing, Ben and Erin. It is the concept that all things should be named properly so that it can exist in the proper context with everything else. The theory is that this results in the proper interactions and thoughts between things and people, which will then lead to harmony. In my mind, I relate the rectification of names to words mean things. So in chapter 39, Darrow is watching Lysander's fleet and refers to his flagship as the Lightbringer nay Morning Star, which brings a sad, defeated tone. However, since nay, N-E-E, means born or originally, it really should be the Lightbringer nay Colossus, which also reasserts the memory of what Darrow did to change that name, as well as what he did immediately afterward. Okay, the most fun part, for me anyways, Let's Talk Mythology Part 3, the Iliad this time. We talked the Odyssey last week, or last time. The Iliad is, of course, the saga by Homer that covers part of the Trojan War. I think there are multiple angles that people can approach the analysis of the books to compare Red Rising characters and events to the Iliad. I ultimately settled on the Greeks being the Rising and the Trojans being the Society. So first, a quick summary of the relevant sections of the Iliad. And I wonder if folks might start drawing the same parallels I did, or if they might draw their own unique ones. If there are any out there, I would love to see them. The only thing I can see is the comments on YouTube, so please do share. Okay, so there is a mighty Greek warrior, Achilles, who has withdrawn from battle because he's angry at his leaders for taking away his beloved slave girl. Without Achilles in the field, Troy's greatest prince and warrior, Hector, the breaker of horses, has nearly pushed the Greeks back to their ships. Patroclus, dearest friend and partner to Achilles, takes the field wearing Achilles' armor, reversing the course of the battle, but Hector kills him. Later, a pissed-off Achilles ends up chasing down and killing Hector in combat. Achilles desecrates Hector's body and drags it behind his chariot repeatedly in full view of Hector's parents and compatriots in Troy. It finally takes divine intervention for Achilles to ransom Hector's body back to his family, namely to his father, king of Troy, Priam. Yep, same name as Mr. Highlingo McFlatneck from Book 1. Now, to Red Rising. In Dark Age, Victra had become estranged from Mustang after the latter seemingly does nothing, or at least not enough, after their children are taken away in Iron Gold. And now Victra is off doing her own things against the Syndicate and with the Obsidians. Victra is my Achilles, both in this comparison and, like, for real. Swoon for Victra. Love that woman. But I guess that's more of an Achilles heel? Whatever. So, the death of Ulysses and Severus' torture are her Patroclus, setting her off on her rampaging warpath. In her vengeance, Victra kills the great and amazing Ajax Algrimus, my Hector, breaker of horses, who, of course, was just part of the force that broke Mustang's defenses on Phobos. Victra, after killing Ajax, parades his head around camp and rubs it in Lysander's face through the vids. And finally, however unwillingly on Victra's part, his remains are traded back to his family during the détente. In this case, to his full brother by choice, half-brother by blood, Lysander. Of course, Achilles ultimately dies after getting shot by a pixie named Paris. I hope that Victra does not meet the same fate as Achilles, which would leave her children without a mother, which, while tragic, would be a powerful echo of Several's own past, and I can see Pierce inflicting that upon us, even if it hurts him as much as it does us. That's it for this week. Thanks for letting me babble, and I will see you all next time. Hickus lupus, motherfucker! Oh!
Oh no.
I'm very worried now after listening to that.
Thank you again, Cassie P, for the great tidbits, but I didn't like when you said that in order to continue this parallel that Victor would have to die. I didn't like that part.
I'm gonna have to go back and retroactively put in earmuffs for Miles now before Cassie P's tidbits.
Yeah, Miles likes to draw Victra. He drew a new Victra this week.
I think he's going to be very sad when he hears that.
I don't like it either.
That was such good analysis, though. That was really well done.
I can't imagine reading any book and thinking this draws parallels to
the Iliad?
To anything. Just
you do in a way, just not to classic literature.
Not to smart things.
Hey, those are things that certain people find smart, but things that you say other people find smart.
Thanks, Ben.
Like
You're
me.
being such a Mateo right now. See, I drew a parallel.
And Cassie P, you're not rambling. We're appreciating your tidbits.
Oh, you can't ramble when everything you say is full of information.
Yeah, fire. I mean,
I want to say that now all night I'm going to be singing.
As a Jurassic Park lover, I really appreciated that for
sure. I also liked saying that Mateo was building Dara up in spirit, because we were talking earlier about how he worked on his mind, his body, his heart, and then he gets off the ship and Mateo builds him up in spirit.
Yes. Also, thank you for clearing up rectification.
I thought that meant of the rectum. Sick burn, Cassie. No, lots of great stuff in there. I actually did think, because I've been doing a lot of crosswords lately. Mm-hmm. I got a new crossword app, and I'm staying up way too late, just furiously doing crosswords. And one of the words that keeps coming up is "nay," the NEE that Cassie talked about. And I did think when I read it, that word popped out to me, because I'm like, oh yeah, been seeing that shit, that he says Lightbringer, nay, the morning star, but he should have really said Lightbringer, nay, the morning star, nay, the Colossus.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cassie P. Loving those tidbits. All right, we've got.
I didn't love the last one.
Yeah, I mean,
when the
I loved
part.
the effort and all of how smart it was. But yes, if that actually happens, then I'm gonna be sad.
Then you can say you told us so.
Yeah.
And I'll say spoon your eye out. I'm just kidding.
All right, we've got one other email here from James Lynn. Jay. Go by Jay, it looks like. Jay says, loving the chapter summaries, was super pumped to hear that Erin had read Project Hail Mary. It's one of their favorites.
Nice. It's good.
And then says that he has a ton of thoughts and theories, but for now I just wanted to say this one. I came up with a theory during my fifth or sixth listen through that the cube that Lyria was meant to bring back to Mars contains a perfected psyche for Pax. It said earlier that the psyche gave its host the ability to control massive fleets while also being cognizant of their surroundings, as Pax is at the Dark Star Conservatory. Learning his trade, the psyche would only amplify his abilities. Pax will use these abilities to fight Abominadrius while Darrow fights Lysander, a.k.a. Bitch Boy. That is a good one.
And that Red God?
That's like an original one, too. I haven't seen that
I haven't seen that anywhere.
Yeah.
Damn, Jay.
Nice one, Jay.
Also, I want to say, speaking of Hail Mary, I finished The Martian. It just didn't have the heart or pizzazz that Hail Mary has.
Yeah, it's much more sciencey.
And the ending didn't have the heart either. Like, I don't know. Hail Mary, made me cry.
We talked about Artemis,
Martian,
right?
Like, whatever. I loved Artemis too.
Yeah, Artemis was good.
That had
I like that
more
main character a lot. Yeah.
I liked The Martian, but it was way more sciencey. Yeah.
Yep. And then last thing Jay says, just wanted to give a shout out to TGR for an awesome recording.
Hell
Always
yeah.
love his voice work, but not gonna lie, I do kind of miss the voice of Mustang from Dark Age. I would.
Well,
agree.
it was sexy.
Yeah.
TGR, you're sexy too.
He said it was spot on.
Yeah.
I agree. That was a really good Mustang. That was like the Mustang voice that I hear in my mind.
I would like that woman to just read me to sleep at night.
Yes.
She should be the voice of RA.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That was that voice.
All right. You know what it's time for?
What are we into this week?
Erin, what are you into?
I have finished The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and I'm about a third through the next one again.
Wise Man's Fear.
Thank you. I was like, where is it? Wrong book's over there. And when I first finished The Name of the Wind, I wasn't ready yet to say that I was into it because I kind of was upset that nothing really happened in that book. Like, you have to keep reading, which I like reading a series. And then I was upset because I didn't know until I finished it that the third book isn't even out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we could be entering like a situation where it might not be out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep reading A Wise Man's Fear, but now I'm like worried when I get to the end of this, it's going to be another big, like, nothing happened. You have to keep reading.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff that happens in Wise Man's Fear.
So I'll keep reading. And I enjoy the story. I enjoy the writing.
The writing's beautiful.
I enjoy, if you haven't read it, these aren't spoilers, but you kind of go from present day back to like a flashback, and there's like a type of institute learning Harry Potter vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. I do.
It's
I
really
like
well
the
done.
story. I actually like the present day story probably even more. I'm like, let's get back to what's going on there.
Yeah. It's like the mystery of that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of like loose ends that keep you wanting to come back. And you've read it, so.
I enjoyed it. I think I recommended it a couple years ago on this podcast.
Nice. Yeah. Why isn't it in our What Are We Into master list, which we do have, by the way?
I think it is.
Great.
Did you control F?
No. Oh, well, I'm into it.
I can't wait for you to get to the porn in Wise Man's Fear.
Okay. The porn? I heard part for a second. Oh, no. All right, Ben, what are you into this week?
I watched a movie called Leave the World Behind on Netflix. It has like Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, really good cast. Ethan Hawke, one of my favorites. Ethan Hawke's my boy. I love Ethan Hawke movies.
Where's Ethan Hawke been?
He's been doing movies.
Damn.
Lots of good stuff. And this was a pretty good movie. I think it's definitely worth a watch. I'm not going to like bang the doors down and say it's the greatest movie ever, but it was done by Sam Esmail, who did like Mr. Robot, that whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was pretty good, I feel like.
Mr. Robot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like a very tense movie kind of about a family that goes off on a spur of the moment vacation to an Airbnb, and then shit starts to happen.
Is it scary?
is, but it
Horror?
isn't. It's not horror. No, there's not like any kind of horror moments. It's very tense, and there's a lot of building of tension. But
I don't like that.
there's not like a lot of great payoffs for the tension that's built. It's interesting and like how the tension and it's like very well done. Like the tension and gets ratcheted up, and it's this like basically like an event happens in the world while these people are at this Airbnb, and then they kind of like are cut off from finding any information out about it, and then you as the viewer are also cut off, and then there's other people that get involved. And then you kind of learn more about like what's actually happening. But then there's also some kind of weird stuff, kind of like supernatural type stuff happening, but not really. And then, but it's like just building tension constantly. It builds. And it has like all these great moments where you're like, I can't. And then it doesn't always pay off that tension, I would say. But it is a very
This sounds terrible.
interesting movie to watch.
You
It's
liked
interesting. I would say, if you like movies, it's worth watching. If you're not into like movies and that type of thing, then don't watch it.
Leave the World Behind.
Leave the World Behind
on Netflix.
Yeah.
And what are we doing next week on HowlerPod?
We're gonna be back in the reread chapters 43 through 47.
Okay, you got a twang on that one. Thanks, Howlers. Special thanks to Miles for the episode art. Special thanks to Nick Brenlow for the amazing voice work. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like the videos. Share them around the world like Santa. Follow us on HowlerPod at HowlerPod, HowlerPod, Instagram, X, Facebook, Etsy, HowlerPod at gmail.com. Voicemail.
My New Year's resolution is to get off Twitter, so we may be less active in that area.
I have never known how to use Twitter in my life.
It's not good.
Humble brag.
That's a good thing.
I used it once to get a vaccine. Leave a voicemail at 1-800-516-1540 or DM us your video voicemails. Find links to all this at HowlerPod.com. Tell a friend about the books and rate and review us 5 stars only. If you don't give us 5 stars only, then we will push you out the airlock after you try to steal our sun butter and honey ham.
Yeah, you can't have our fucking ham.
No, you make good ham too.
Yeah, they can't have it unless they go.
You're going
5
out
stars.
the airlock.
All right, thanks, Howlers.
OMNIS VIR LUPUS.
Ow!